What's important to you? My mission is to ask as many people as possible this question, because I believe once you know what's important, you can design and build a life of purpose, meaning, and fulfillment. My name is James Dean. I'm a life coach, and I hope this podcast inspires you to uncover what's important to you. You can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at James Dean Coaching, or connect with me on LinkedIn. You can also learn how I can help you understand what's important at jamesdeancoaching.com. Today's guest knows that most small business owners want to build a successful business whose reputation precedes them and where the sales and growth look after themselves. To do that, they need a unique brand strategy, a story that sells and customer experiences so amazing that their clients become raving fans. The problem is that most company directors are not marketeers and don't have hours to waste trying tactics they find randomly on Google. She believes every business owner deserves an opportunity to achieve their company's vision, even if they're not skilled marketeers. She gets it because she studied customer experience in 2015. She's a practiced performance coach with qualifications in coaching sales, culture, and emotional intelligence. She has co-authored a #1 best-selling book about customer experience and is a StoryBrand certified guide. With ongoing support, she helps her clients level up their marketing strategy, style, story, and sales to get more clients and grow their dream business faster and easier. She is the founder of CX Creators and Deirdre Martin Consulting. In this episode, we find out what's important to Deirdre Martin. Hi Deirdre, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, James. Delighted to be here.
Yeah, really looking forward to this conversation. So as always, the first question, Deirdre, is what's important to you?
You know, when I knew that this was what you were going to lead with, I was like, oh my God. Okay, I need to go back and think about this again, actually, because it's interesting going up through my adult life. It's not something I ever really thought about long term. It was more so the short term. What do I need to do to keep, get the kids dressed and fed and out to school every day? But then when I was made redundant in December of 2020, it was something that I really had to stop and reflect on. And what I realized were, some of my passion points and the things that were really important to me. It was about helping others succeed. And what I mean by that is it's helping them succeed, but whilst also feeling financially secure myself and for my family, so that we're independent enough to be able to live and enjoy the lifestyle that we like. So it's helping others get that level up, but whilst being comfortable doing it. And whether it's the kids getting to college or university or, helping them be able to get their first car in the future, it's just about, I suppose, making things easier for other people. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And so you're saying about the success of other people. So where does that come from? Because that's quite an interesting thing to say in sense of very sort of altruistic in some ways, obviously, but from a business as well. But where does that idea or that sort of meaning come from to help or see other people succeed?
For me, it was throughout my life and my career, some of the things that, the days that I came home from work and went, I had such a good day in work today. When I reflected on it back in December of 2020, and I thought back, what were those days? What had happened on those days? And it was always that I'd helped somebody, achieve something that they found challenging or difficult. A lot of the people, let's say I worked in banking, so it could be helping somebody get their mortgage so they could buy their first home. And that was amazing. You felt you were on the journey, you were nearly handing them the keys. It was just so exciting. And so that sense, or even, for example, again, maybe if it was a colleague, helping them apply for the next level,
Yeah.
in their career, or a CV, filling up a CV to get them to the next level. It was just seeing other people get a step up. And the same, those days when you came home and maybe you're reading with the kids and they struggled to pronounce a word before or figure out what a word was, but the next day they're reading and they've nailed it. It's just seeing that success in others and how they feel. It's the emotions that those people experience when they get to that level. For me, that's just so fulfilling, and it's really important to me to feel fulfilled. So, and that's how I achieve it, I think, is by helping others succeed. And sometimes that comes from sharing knowledge with others, because like that, I've been fortunate enough to have had extensive training growing up in different areas and fields. So I have a very vast and broad knowledge in loads of different areas. And so if I can share one nugget of wisdom with one person and that helps them succeed, again, that's where that sense of fulfillment comes from for me. So yeah, I just love it. It's really important to me, I suppose, to feel fulfilled, and that's how I achieve it.
Absolutely. And obviously then in sense of similar stories, in both in sense of our previous backgrounds within financial services, which I didn't know, going from that sort of space where you say within banking to what you're doing now, how did that sort of transition work for you? How did you find, I suppose I'm interested in sense of that change from working in the banking world to then working probably for yourself, but then in the industry that you're in?
I did a huge amount of soul searching, James. There were a few things that led to where I am today. So right now I'm a marketing consultant. And when I look back on my career, and as I say, I looked at what were my passion points, and I kind of thought maybe I'll be a career coach. Maybe I'll do something like that. And so I asked myself, first and foremost, what would I do if I wasn't afraid? And that led me to, okay, I would start my own business. And then I'm like, okay, if I'm going to start a business, what is that business going to be? How can I help people so that they'll pay me, right? And then I went and got some coaching and mentoring. I did a Myers-Briggs personality test on myself to figure out, okay, who am I now? And a lot of reflective time, but the coaching definitely helped me come around to reflecting on those passion points. And so part of that was, it was helping others 100%. And it was also some of the things where I got really lit up during the 20 years, where I went in going, oh, I can't wait to do this tomorrow. And the things that I was excited about. And so part of that was customer experience. Part of it was, representing the bank at different things, which was marketing. And I suppose I didn't realize that I had been doing a lot of marketing. I didn't consider that I had been, because I was never called a marketer. We had a marketing department, but I wasn't a marketer. I was the bank manager, right? So it was totally different. And so when I started on the journey, then my business coach had said, you know what, Deirdre, career coaching, I think you will find it boring after a while. And I was like, so hurt. I was so hurt. I was like, really? I would love to help people, in their careers. And she was like, no, I think you're just going to be so bored. And you've got so much knowledge and information to share with people that you could do a lot more than that. So she sent me back to the drawing board and to reflect more. And so I started to specialize in customer experience. And what had happened was customer experience for me. I'd worked in retail banking for 20 years. And in 2015, I had done a program on customer experience management. And I thought, God, I'm really good at customer service. I get loads of compliments. My clients come in, they give me gifts regularly. I get thank you cards, all those things. And my team are getting all these things as well. So it's not just me. I'm doing a good job in the team. But when I went and I did that customer experience training, James, oh my God, talk about paradigm shift.
Yeah.
Because customer experience, what a lot of people didn't realize, starts with a person's need or desire to solve a problem or achieve an ultimate goal. And so it's not just that service transaction or interaction, it's how a business builds a brand and represents their brand through marketing. And that's then where the engagements start to happen and a customer starts to interact. And so I thought, oh yeah, actually that's what I could do, that customer experience piece. And so even since then, it's evolved. And as I said, I'm a marketing consultant now. And the reason I've kind of shifted my language around that is because what is important to me is customer experience and helping others succeed. But what are people willing to pay for? And that was something I alluded to before. People are willing to pay for marketing, but they're not always willing to pay for customer experience. So again, something I've learned from my business coaches: sell them what they want, or sell them what they want and then give them what they need. So I kind of give them the customer experience tips and all those things afterwards. So that was a long-winded answer, but I hope
yeah, absolutely. No, and I think it's some really important sort of lessons in there, in a sense of, because it's a huge amount in it. But I think the first thing is, and I think, and even just for myself, is that the first thing that you thought of, you know, and say I've a sense of similarity, but the first thing, oh no, I'll do that. I'll be the career coach thing, and I'm sure that, and this is what with a lot of people I talk to, it's like you have that great idea, that really, oh no, this is it, and you see it all and see it, and then I'm so excited, and you know, well, someone else goes, well, actually, no, that's not really gonna cut it, and so many people, and you've probably seen this as well, as they go, well, that's it then. Oh well, I tried, thinking that that's it, but to, as you say, to then really go back in, and I love the point that you said a few times, is like, what are my passion points? That's I've never heard it that way before. I think that's a really powerful way of getting people to think about what do they really enjoy, and then to delve into that deeper. But then you say to try and go in a different way, but also the points there, you've been sense of the use of language when it comes to business, specifically in a sense of, as you say, because there's this, I don't know if you've ever experienced this when you went into it for yourself. There's this thing of, I want to help people, but I also need to make money. And that's sort of like, how did you, I suppose, was it something that was kind of like that you had to square off in your own head or sort of work through, because you like that thing of like, I'm sure there's a passion for you to do it, to help people. So how did you sort of bridge that gap between selling and wanting to help people?
You know, that's actually a fantastic question, because it's a major challenge for people, especially around money mindset, right? Because when I worked in banking, and again, I didn't think I was a salesperson until I was 17 years in the bank, right? And then they went, oh, Deirdre, you whatever at sales and all the rest, and my team the same. So what I found to be very challenging, James, was to be able to create and package my own offers and then have sales conversations around them. The money was a separate challenge, actually, because usually when you're working for somebody else as an employee, everything comes packaged, and then, you work out, okay, well, how does this help people? And then that's the conversation I need to have with somebody, and they either accept the offer or they reject it. That's it. But when it's your own business and you're finding your way in the dark and you're trying to go, okay, that's the problem that they want solved. How can I create an offer around this? So it's that whole packaging the offer piece in a way where people are going to be compelled to buy it because it does solve their problem. So that was one challenge. It was just packaging the offer. And the second challenge was, okay, now that I've packaged the offer, how much do I charge for this? So there's that whole self-belief, all of the imposter syndrome crept in, that, those limiting beliefs. You know, I'm still learning, but really, actually, I have 20 years experience doing all of these
Yeah.
things. So I might be new in my business, but actually I'm not new to what the solution I'm providing. So all of that, there were major mindset shifts that I went through, but actually an epiphany that I had while I was going through that transformation of being an employee for 20 years, getting paid on the 25th of every month, was there is no limit to how much I can earn or to how successful I can become. Whereas before, I used to think what was important to me was getting that next rung on the ladder and thinking, okay, well, you know, next year I'm going to get a 2% pay rise. That's important to me. But actually, it's not. Enjoying my job is much more important to me, and seeing people be successful fulfills me. And, you know, part of that shift, as I say, was that those limiting beliefs, getting rid of those was amazing. And yeah, 100%. It was just a major transformation from packaging to selling to there's no limit how much I can earn.
That's actually a really powerful shift, and I can hear that in a sense, because again, from a say similar previous career background, and the way that obviously especially big companies, big corporations are set up, they have to be done that way. They're structured. There are bands. There are salary bands, as you say. There's next steps up. There's process. There's promotions. There's all these things, and it is, you know, when you're in it, a convenient way to be, in a sense of like the predictability of it in some ways. So that shift outside of it, it's a really powerful thing. And I suppose for anyone who's listening, who's trying to go through something similar in a sense of out on their own or business, in a sense of, it can initially, maybe it's a little bit scary to think there are no limits to what you can earn, achieve, or do. But it's also quite liberating as well to hear it in that way, isn't it?
Incredibly liberating. And one of the other things that I found really liberating as well, James, I don't know if you've experienced this as well, but let's say before, when I worked in banking, if I wanted to create a campaign locally or share a message locally in the community, I had to do it nearly 3 months in advance, because I had to go to the marketing department and say, here's what I want to do, and this is what I want to create. Then they would have to go and mock it up, and then it would have to be approved by, you know, the regulatory team, legal and compliance, whoever it was. And then, you know, the date would have passed for the event that I wanted to create it for by the time all of those internal departments came back to me. For me, that was so frustrating, because that limited, I felt, to at certain points in time, the success that we had on the ground in terms of banking. So for me now to be able to say, I think I'll share a social media post right now.
Yeah.
Amazing. For me to be able to create a brand that I love, that I'm proud to share, proud to talk about, make changes to it, and be incredibly flexible, you know, and make it so easy. Like, business now is fun and easy. And so that was a major shift as well. It's incredibly liberating. Now it's scary. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
It's scary, but it's incredibly liberating.
Yeah, no, I absolutely. That's a really, again, another really powerful thing, because I think, and I suppose in sense of my own sort of reflections and experiences, like one of the things in sense of myself wanting to try and sort of be self-employed and set up my own business, very much in it's probably coming from that similar experience of frustration sometimes within being in a big company, as much as the benefits you get from there, is I kept saying, it's like, I want to live and die by my own sword. I just want to try and see. And, you know, if I get this wrong, it's on me. But if I get it right, it's also on me. Not to say that I don't need help and I'll ask people, but in the end, I ultimately decide what I do or not do. And I suppose that even the fact that I'm talking to you now and recording this podcast episode is that exact thing where you just said of like, you know what, I'm just going to give this a go. I'm just going to try something because I find it quite interesting. And I think it's good for me, and I think it's good for people to listen to, and it's good for the people I talk to. So as scary as it can be, it's sort, as you say, going back to that word of like, it's very freeing and liberating to have that autonomy that you kind of like, you don't need sign off. You don't know to go to, 4 or 5 different people or different departments to get to something you do. And that in the end, it's that ownership of what you do, isn't it? And as you said, though, it's and what you do in a sense of marketing um, is your own brand. It's that how you portray yourself, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. And to elaborate on that, James, and I know you'd said to me before we started recording, you might ask me for a quote or something.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to jump in here and share one that you've reminded me of. I think when I was maybe 16 or 17, I read a quote somewhere, and I hope I have it right, but essentially it is, to try is to risk failure, and not to try is to guarantee it.
Yeah. Completely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's such a really is such a big one, because and I was talking about this I think in a couple of videos there just the last couple of days. It's that thing of like, success isn't guaranteed for sure for anyone, but if you don't do anything, is just the quote you just said, it's like, well, if you don't do anything, the failure is guaranteed because you didn't even see what could come of it.
Yeah.
And with that, so you say it was from, say, December 20 is kind of when you went into what you're doing now. What we're talking on, I suppose, and like, I've had many things that I've tried and haven't come to fruition in my sort of just this last 4 or 5 months, and in previous guises. Any sort of tips or things that you share in sense of things that you learned from things that went wrong as such?
Yeah, I think, sometimes we're conditioned to think that failure is not good. And even now when I see kids and, they're playing matches or they're running races or whatever, there's always prizes for the people who don't win, and so people are being congratulated even when they don't win. And I think sometimes we need to do that as adults as well. We need to say it's okay to fail. And I think we don't do that enough. And I know for me, my inner critic goes rampant if I think I'm not good enough. And that's something that, I struggle with at times is am I good enough? And it's always pushing myself to try to improve, to grow. And I think, it's about managing those inner villains when things just don't go as you planned, and thinking, okay, get over the emotional part, give yourself a kick in the derriere, and then move on. What can you learn from that, and what can you try and do differently the next time? And it's about taking the feedback and the criticism on board, no matter how good or bad it is. Because if we only ever get good criticism and critique, well, we're not going to improve. And again, if things stay the same, if we don't change, well, then what happens is they wilt and die. And, that might sound terribly morbid, but it's a fact, right? It's chrysalis. If we don't evolve and grow and try new things, then we're not going to be able to always keep up. And so it is a case for me, I think, about being kind to myself when things don't work out how I'd hoped or planned they would. And then getting over that emotional piece, and then saying to myself, right, okay, now what's next? How can I learn, and how can I grow?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the same, in sense, to share my own piece on that, I suppose, is and it's very much in the sense of like, when you're in a sort of a space or industry where you want, as you said, you want to help other people succeed, and you're there to sort of be part of someone else's, hopefully, their success. There is an element that I've probably learned as well in the last while, is like, as much as I want that for some other person, I can't sort of, that's not me either. So in some ways, to be able to detach from what they may do or may not do, and I kind of go, well, I can show up as what I can do, and sort of fulfill what my side is, and fulfill, and then it's kind of like, it's up to, we all have to have that almost personal responsibility to play our own parts in those things as well. And I think the other piece on that is like, sometimes when it comes to success or failure, whichever we look at it, is we can spend so much time and energy on something. We think this is it. This is going to be the best. It's going to be stellar. Whether it be like a just example of a social media post, you think you come up with the best post ever. This is going to hit everyone, and it'd be crickets.
Yeah.
And then you'll put something up that literally you thought about in 2 seconds. It's a really sort of rubbishy sort of photo, or whatever. You throw it up, and it goes, and it really connects. And sometimes it's like you don't know where it's going to land, and sometimes so you just got to go with it.
I totally agree with you. And sometimes that can come from being too prepared. Sometimes, as you say, winging it and doing it on the fly is actually maybe the best way, because it's not as and again, this maybe comes back to a few points from earlier. When I worked in corporate world and banking, I had to be very careful about what I said and how I said it on social media. And so I found that to be a transition and transformation, even now, to finding my own unique voice again and sharing that as me. And so probably last year, if you look at my posts and the tone in my posts, it was very formal, always incredibly professional, because I spent hours creating one post at a time. Whereas now I could, create a post and have it done in 5 minutes. And it is about, because now I know how I sound and how I show up. Maybe a little bit erratic from time to time, but that's who I am. And I suppose the other side of that is in terms of doing things on the fly, it's how you're feeling in that moment and the energy that you have at that point in time. And I think that really comes through in a conversation, on your social media, wherever you're showing up. And even as an employee or a business owner, it's exactly the same. It's what is your energy at that time? And if your energy is great, yes, you should be on social media. Yes, you should be asking your boss for a pay rise, whatever it is. When you're charged, go for it. I would say if you're feeling really crappy and low, well then, step back and do something else. But if the energy is great, go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm interested as well in a sense of because obviously you had sort of the career, in a sense of the 20-year career within the banking, and it's funny, there's a few other people I've spoken to who've had similar careers, or at least long careers in one particular industry. Did you find it not necessarily going into starting the business as a challenge, but a sense of then, did you find it any challenge to maybe shift what you thought your identity was from I'm in the bank, or the bank manager, to now Deirdre, what is the marketing consultant? I'd be interested to think, how did you sort of shift, or was that a challenge for you?
I think to a certain extent it was. And I think that the biggest thing was that voice. How do I actually sound when I don't have corporate and legal and marketing and all those people looking over my shoulder? And I suppose it was feeling brave enough to be able to share who I am authentically when I show up on social media, or even in an email to someone.
Yep.
And I probably am still that sort of professional person. I am quite reserved in lots of ways. Now I can be a bit wild at times too, and those who know me well will attest to that. But it's about letting that wild side out maybe a little bit more. And I never would have done that when I worked in banking. But I suppose it's feeling courageous enough to let people in and to show you for who you really are, and getting visible in doing that. And one of the things that I was really afraid to do, James, in fact, was to come on camera.
Okay.
And to do, even to put a photo of myself up on social media, I was really afraid to do that. And I was, I did think, how are people going to perceive me? Am I going to be judged? What are they going to think? They're going to think, who is she to be up there doing that? And, my LinkedIn, I had, maybe 1,000 or so LinkedIn connections before I started working for myself. And then most of those people were bankers, they were colleagues, or competitors, or clients in the main. And I kind of thought, oh my God, what are they going to say about me when I'm up sharing all these things about myself? So that was a transformation. And it was, as I say, it was the voice thing, but it was also coming out of my shell to just kind of say, okay, try it, Deirdre, do the video, see how it goes. But like that, again, and you'll see the difference from last year to even now. The videos I'd have done for maybe the first 5 or 6 months, I scripted them all because I was so afraid I'd say something that wasn't, that those people would think about. But really, I don't care what they think about now. They're not my ideal clients anyway. They can say what they want, and that's their business. I'm here to show up and add value to the people who I believe I can help, and I don't care if that's them or not. So that, even saying it, I can hear the transformation I've come on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's what's really sort of powerful for people to hear as well, because, and I think it's, from my experience as well, is like and it's not to say we don't all go have these challenges in different ways, but that thinking, that feeling or that worry of, one, that fear of being judged by other people, or the fear of looking like a fool or whatever it is, that was my one. It's kind of, if you go enough into that thought, you think you're the only one who has it. And that's where it could be so isolating. But the truth is when you hear and you talk to and you listen to the people, it's like there isn't one thought or fear that only one person has. We've all had them in different degrees or different levels or different times. And that's a freeing thing when you actually hear that. And a lot of the times when you do start saying stuff out loud, or using your voice, as you say, and putting something out there, whether it be a video or a post or whatever it is, or just in person with someone, the reaction you tend to get from that person that you were maybe fearful of is completely different. They're like, oh, great. Yeah, no, that's brilliant. Or they're, oh, thanks for sharing. You're almost, I've been taken aback by the people are thinking, oh, geez, you watch my stuff? That's quite a sort of like, to me, it was kind of a humbling thing of like, okay, you need to just get over yourself here a little bit.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, I've done some reels and I will be doing the dancing and the pointing and all this sort of stuff. And it took me a while to get there, James. And, but I would go in on a Friday, I would set some time in my calendar and I will record a couple of reels. And you know what? I laugh so hard at myself when I'm doing them that I actually quite enjoy doing them now. And like I've had a couple of friends who've said, oh my God, you must be mortal doing the reels. And I'm like, I'm not, and I'm thinking, that's fine for you to say that. They're judging me. Maybe they don't realize they are. But I'm like, no, actually, I'm not. I'm having a bit of a laugh. I quite enjoy doing them. And I think they're quite taken aback when I say that. But as I say, those are friends. They're not my ideal clients. They don't get value from what I'm trying to provide. And I suppose that, like, every time I'm on social media, every single time I show up, my sole purpose is to try to add value to help others succeed. And so, I do that through content that I share about marketing, or whether it's business tips or what have you, but that is my sole purpose. So I know that they're not getting value, and that's okay. But stop following my business account then,
Absolutely. No, you're absolutely right. You shared a quote with us earlier, which was fantastic. I'd be interested in, are there any other people that you would say that have had an influence on you, whether it be in the public eye or privately, in sense of how whether it be previously or in the current time where you're in?
How long have you got?
We got time.
Yeah, seriously, I've been very fortunate to be surrounded by a lot of inspirational people in my life. And, even growing up, my mum was the breadwinner in my home because my dad was very poorly. He had surgery whilst my mum was pregnant with me and didn't think he'd make it. And so he did. He died when I was 16, but for those 16 years, he was in poor health. So my dad was my mum and my mum was my dad, if you're to look at traditional families growing up. But I suppose both of them inspired me then in different ways for that reason. And, my mum went out to work every day, never complained. My dad cooked the dinners, did my homework with me, collected me from school, all those things. So 100% they were major influencers. My family as well, my brother and sister, they were quite a lot older than me. And I had cousins who lived around the corner. I mean, all of those people were massive influencers. And then in my career, I remember I started in the bank in 2000, just January 2001 even. And I started in Dublin, and I worked there for about 2 years when I fell pregnant. And the regional manager of that area in Dublin was in the branch as well. And I had a really good relationship with him, because at that point, the bank hadn't maybe institutionalized me yet. I was still wild me. And I was barely a teen. Well, I was older than a teenager, I suppose, at that stage. But, one of the things he'd said to me was, Deirdre, you have an amazing career ahead of you, but if you move down the country, which was what I wanted to do, because I'm from Carlow in Ireland originally, I wanted to move to be nearer to home, because I was commuting to Dublin every day, and I couldn't manage that while I was pregnant with a small baby, and I couldn't afford to live in Dublin because my wages weren't high enough. So this was a dilemma. It was a choice I had to make. So I had looked for promotion or a transfer down the country, and he'd said, it's going to take you the best part of 10 years to get a promotion down the country. Whereas if you stay in Dublin, you will fly up the career ladder. But I hadn't told him that I was pregnant and the reason for my moves at that stage. But that certainly did leave a lasting impression. And it did take me nearly 10 years to get a promotion, because there was no natural attrition. Things didn't move as quickly down the country. It was a job for life. It's unheard of nearly outside of Dublin for people to move from one bank to another. It happens quite regularly in Dublin City, but not so much down the country. And so, people are nearly shunned when they leave one bank and move to another. And so, because then no vacancies arose, we had the recession in 2008, all of those things impacted me. But then things started to change and evolve again, James. And I remember going for a career review at one point, and one of the lasting impressions that regional manager left on me at that point in time was that I got to where I was because of my own determination, success, and achievements. But to get to the next level, I needed to be able to inspire others to do that as well. Okay. So this was kind of a transformation as well, and a mindset shift in terms of leading people. And helping others get to that next level, and doing things that didn't demotivate the team, I suppose, trying to make their job easier. So that was huge, and still stays with me today. And gosh, like customer experience, that whole thing was massive for me. As I say, the list goes on. There's so many different things. That was massive. My business coach has been a huge influence on me as well. And I'd say, for anybody not or listening who has never been coached, I think you need to be mindful of what you're missing out on, because it's amazing. And I didn't really understand what coaching was for many, many years. And in 2011, we had external coaches come into the bank, and I was being coached, and I didn't know what was happening here, right? It wasn't explained very well. And then later on, I did a coaching program internally in the organization that I worked in, where we were trained to be coaches, and we had coaching supervision, and we coached our team members. That was eye-opening as well. And I mean, if you look at the best sports people in the world, the best teams in the world, they have coaches for a reason. It helps you get to the next level. It's not to catch you out or, hold you accountable for anything, though they can do that if you want. There's so much value in coaching. So that was a huge learning as well, and really opened my eyes even more so to the possibilities, and that sort of stuff. So like I said, I mean, I could talk for a long time about all of these things, but these are the things that have kind of shifted my mindset and, helped me get to where I am today.
Yeah. No, yeah.
One more.
Go for it.
Actually, there's maybe two. Networking.
Yeah.
Networking groups actually is something else. Again, when I worked in the bank in a local community, my branch manager said to me, Deirdre, there's a new networking group opening up here. It's for women. Would you be the bank's representative? And I went, oh, why is she doing this to me? And oh, it's work outside of hours. Doesn't she know I have kids and all this sort of stuff? And then I went, Deirdre, stop. This is an opportunity to get out and meet other people. And actually, what I found was that these are other people who are like me. They're ambitious, they're determined, they want to get on in life, they want to help others as well. And so 5-6 years later, I'm still in that network. I no longer work for the bank or represent them, but that's exactly what it was. And that networking group had mentoring facilities within it as well. They're called Network Ireland, and it's a mentoring group for women, or a networking group for women, but they offer voluntary, some of the members offer a voluntary mentoring facility. So you get to have one session per year with each member. And for me, that was so powerful, because when I was being made redundant, I was able to leverage that network to help me hit the ground running in my business. But also all of the events that I'd attended, even though I was an employee, I learned about branding. I learned about marketing. I had like one of the main CX companies, customer experience companies in Ireland, come down and talk to us in Kilkenny about customer experience. So all of those things were opportunities, if you like, that I won't say I was afforded, but that I grasped. Somebody asked me and I kind of went, okay, and it's not extra work. It's an opportunity to learn or grow or do something. And so sometimes I have to catch myself saying, oh, it's not more work, it's okay.
Yeah.
But still manage my boundaries so that, I have time for my family and my kids and my lovely husband. So it's about managing those things as well. But all of those things have been so influential on me personally, my life, my family, my career, everything. So loads.
No, and absolutely. And no, because that was really powerful, because as you were talking there and you kind of going through it almost chronologically, you could see, and when you said it, was like, oh, now that's where you can, and that's why I like asking that question, because I could genuinely see how those people have influenced you now. Because what we've spoken about for the last while has all come about because of those conversations and those people you've had. And I think it's a really powerful thing for people to hear, in a sense of, sometimes we can be quite flippant sometimes when people are trying to give us advice or trying to suggest something to us, tell us something. I think, like, because what a sense of, like, if I go back to my own experiences of working within where I work, so in financial services, so I was in life assurance with New Ireland for 16 years, and the various different managers I've had there. And it's sometimes it's like, when you're in those moments when you said that one of like, oh, do I have to go do this, was that sort of response from we had. And sometimes you like, one of the biggest learnings I would take from some of those things of people is sometimes when they say you can only do so much. Because I was customer service was my sort of area as well, and then speciality in a particular product. And because, again, I was like, oh, but in my head, I'm thinking, oh, but this isn't fair. We should be able to do more and do more and do more. But you have to acknowledge there's a business there. There's limitations. There are boundaries within the business, and that sort of, to me, in a sense of like, well, actually, there's only so much we can do. And to me, so I think the reason for sharing that is like, those pieces of their influences, if you really listen to them, they can have the impact that those pieces of those people that have on you now. And it's sometimes when through reflection you can see, actually, no, those pieces of advice or those people really did influence the way where I am in the position you're in now.
Absolutely. And sometimes it's even books that I've read have been incredibly influential, like Think and Grow Rich. Building a StoryBrand for me, that was major. That was that for me really tied in and resonated with me because of the whole customer experience piece. And so now I'm a certified StoryBrand guide, because I'm like, oh, it just made sense. You know, it was like connecting the dots. And other books I've read have been just mind-blowing as well in terms of influence. And I am a reader. I mean, I nearly would read a book a week or more.
Yeah.
I love to read, but there's just some that I listen to over and over again. And Think and Grow Rich is one of them, because it's about masterminds. It's about, you know, coaching to a certain extent. And that's what often happens in masterminds. It's where you're getting those opinions and insights from others. Those things 100% help. And it's like you say, you know, sometimes it's, if somebody makes a suggestion, we can be a bit flippant. I think it's really important to sometimes reflect that often others can see in us what we can't see in ourselves. And the same for our businesses. So being open to hear what others have is a very powerful skill, even though it's not always easy to hear what they have to say. So that for me, again, is something that I try to live by. You know, and even though I might go, oh, you're critiquing my business, my baby, okay, let that go and listen to what they have to say.
Yeah, absolutely. Deirdre, it's been really wonderful to talk to you and hear some of your story and how you got to where you got to. I just have one more question for you. Is what's important for your future?
Great question. I think what's important for my future, I think it's to still be of service to others. And for my future, it's interesting because I looked at, you know, what are my values? And I only did this exercise in the last few months, or few weeks, in fact. And I think it is about looking at my life and my business and thinking what values are important to me in terms of managing that between my family and my business. And the three that cropped up for me were flexibility, which I love because I never had that in a corporate role. And it's that freedom and liberation that comes with the flexibility. And also being able to make those decisions whenever I want. If I decide I want 2 months off next year, okay, I can make that happen. So that's important to me. Ease, you know, enjoy what I'm doing, you know, and celebrating those little wins, James. No matter how small they are, that's really important.
Definitely.
And trying to find ways to make things easier. And again, like another book I read by Rachel Rogers was that, I mean, how many 7 or 8 figure CEOs do you know that work by themselves? None. So it's hire before you're ready, you know, hire people who are better than you. So that's the ease part. And then abundance. To feel that life is full of abundance, and it is. And, you know, something that I live by is that there are more clients, my ideal clients, out there in the world that I could capably be able to serve at a high level. And so I just need to get in front of them, because there's so many, but, you know, I just need to find a few, and that's it. So that all ties into that. There's an abundance of clients in the world. There's an abundance of support, and just, that's what my plan is. Flexibility, ease, and abundance.
Love it. That's brilliant. As I say, it's been brilliant to chat to you, Deirdre. I really have enjoyed this. It's been wonderful. I'd love to make sure people know how they can connect and follow with you. So I will share all your details in the show notes. But if you want to give a shout out now of where people can connect and follow you online.
Yeah, you'll find me on Instagram and LinkedIn at Deirdre Martin Consulting. And my website is deirdremartinconsulting.ie.
Fantastic. Thanks for that. As I said, all of those links will be shared in the show notes, so you can click on them and connect and follow with Deirdre. Deirdre, once again, thank you so much for chatting to me today.
Thank you for having me again, James. It was great fun. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you for listening to What's Important to You. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, comment, and share. And make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Again, you can follow me at James Dean Coaching on Facebook and Instagram. Connect with me on LinkedIn or find out more about me on jamesdeancoaching.com.